Welcome back to Talent Hub Talk. Today I am going to be recording the first episode of a short series of episodes where I review our 2024 ANZ Salesforce market survey. So today I'll be going through the candidate side of the survey, and in the next episode, which will follow this in a couple of weeks, will be the client side of the survey. Firstly, I just want to thank everyone that has and did take the time to fill out the survey. And we had the largest number of responses ever this year, which is awesome, because ultimately that means the most amount of money that has been donated to charities, which is great. Something we're really proud of doing and something we're passionate about continuing to do. So $3 for every respondent that we had has gone off to charities this year. So thanks for everyone that's done that. And we got some really, really interesting insight from the survey, which I'm going to run through. I'm doing it live. I've not kind of picked out anything in advance. So I'm going to go through, review the survey results and call out the interesting stats that I see as I go. I'll try and make it so that everyone can kind of follow if you've got the document in front of you when you're listening. If not, and if you haven't seen the survey results yet, I recommend going onto our website and downloading a copy because, like I said, some really, really interesting and insightful information in there. So current work situation was the first page of the survey results. And interestingly, this year round, the contract market had slipped slightly from 16% of Salesforce professionals in our last survey, so 2022, 2023, and this year, 2023, 24, it's gone down from 16% to 15%. So 15% of ANZ Salesforce professionals are currently contracting. I think that will continue to rise over time, probably lower than I would expect based on the conversations I have. But right now, 15% of Salesforce professionals are currently contracting. The highest number of professionals or job title to contract is 43%. So 43% of Salesforce business analysts are currently working in a contract role. I guess business analysts tend to be hired for projects rather than BAU, and there'll be some exceptions to that rule. But on the whole, we are often seeing business analysts being hired for a specific project. So it kind of makes sense that they would be hired on a contract. Obviously, Salesforce partners need BAs as well. So a lot of the people that are permanent may well be working for partners. But that's an interesting stat. So the most likely, if you're speaking to a Salesforce professional, the most likely for them to be a contractor is a business analyst role. 6% of ANZ Salesforce professionals are in between roles or / immediately available, which has gone up slightly from 4% last year. So I think a few factors as to why that number's gone up, but 6% of people are immediately available, which goes to show when a company are hiring for someone urgently and needing someone to start immediately or yesterday, as a lot of my clients ask me for, there's only 6% of candidates that are actually able to start very, very quickly right now in the market. Moving to Salesforce team turnover. The most frequent reason for Salesforce professionals leaving their last role was remuneration, and then followed by end of contract. So 13% finished their last role due to end of contract, and 18% said that they left their last role due to remuneration. I think on the contract point, we have seen a number of companies looking to move some of their contractors to permanent roles, and we've seen a number of contractors finish long-term projects. So that's why a lot of people would have rolled off of contracts. And remuneration is always one that comes up highly on reasons for people to leave. I think that's kind of to be expected. Lack of progression was the reason for leaving for 11% of people. That's often the reason that I'm given when I speak to someone that's looking for a new role. I think a lot of the time they say they've kind of outgrown their environment, they've stopped learning, and they've stopped being given opportunities. So 11% seems quite low for me, but it's interesting to see that 18% said remuneration and only 11% said the lack of progression. Interestingly, 26% of people said it would be the most important factor when looking for a new role. So 26% of people said that progression is important for them, or the most important factor, or one of the most important factors, which I think is in line with the conversations I had, like I said, or I regularly have. Only 2% of people left their last role due to lack of flexibility. I do feel that, flexibility is kind of a given now with most companies. If you're not offering flexibility, then you're definitely an exception to the rule. And if you're not offering flexibility, I think you're going to struggle to hire and retain talent. 33% of people said that flexibility was actually one of the biggest considerations for them, or the biggest consideration for them when they're considering opportunities. So yeah, it goes to show how important that is. 9% of Salesforce professionals were impacted by redundancy in 2023-24, which is up slightly from 7% last year. Been really, sad. It's been a shame to see people being affected by redundancies. We've seen a number of them across the last year and beyond. Hopefully things are kind of softening a little bit. Hopefully we're not going to see as many in the coming year as we've seen in the last few. But yeah, really disappointing that there have been more people impacted this year than last. 66% of Salesforce professionals expect to be in their current role for at least the next 12 months, and with only 13% planning to leave in the next 6 months. So it just goes to show how difficult it is going to be to attract talent in the market. If you think that 6% of Salesforce professionals are immediately available and only 13% are planning to leave their current role in the next 6 months. If you're hiring in the next 6 months, it goes to show it's going to be really challenging to find really, really top Salesforce talent. Salesforce certified technical architects are 80% of Salesforce technical architects are expecting to be with their current employer this time next year, which was 62% last year. So obviously companies are doing something right to retain and keep their CTAs happy. Attracting and retaining top talent. So we asked some questions around visiting job boards this year, and most Salesforce professionals only visit job boards such as Seek, Indeed, etc. a couple of times a year. It amazes me that so many companies still use job boards as their sole way of attracting Salesforce talent. People only visiting it a couple of job boards a couple of times a year goes to show that if you're looking for people, you have to land the job advert in front of the right person at the right time to be able to attract them, which is difficult if they're only looking a couple of times a year. So my message to hiring managers out there is that you really just need more of a plan, more of a structure around how you're going to find top Salesforce talent. Having a job on a job board isn't a candidate attraction strategy. It's just one method, which doesn't always bring up the best results, unfortunately. Out of all the job titles, Salesforce administrators visit job boards most frequently. 27% said they visit weekly, which is interesting. 9% of Salesforce professionals never look. Last year it was 16% said they never look. So obviously people are keeping more of an eye on the market than they were last year. But yeah, 9%. So yeah, almost 1 in 10 candidates aren't looking at job boards at all, which is definitely an interesting stat. When professionals are next looking to move roles, when Salesforce professionals are next looking to move roles, 30% of Salesforce professionals said they would prefer a contract role in their next move. So I think it was 16% I mentioned prior around how many, 15% or 16% of Salesforce professionals are currently contracting. That's right now in a contract role, but 30% will prefer a contract when they next move role. So that's why I said I think the market will continue to grow for contract. And just based on the conversations I have with people, it is fast becoming one of the, I'm not going to say it's the preferred right now, but it's getting there. 30% of sales professionals preferring contract. That's going up, and I think that will just continue to go up, and it's going to get more and more difficult to attract someone into a permanent role when there are high daily rate contracts available. But most interestingly, only 4% of Salesforce professionals would actually consider a fixed-term contract. So if you don't know the difference between a contract and a fixed-term contract role, a contract is typically paid in Australia and New Zealand as a daily rate, sometimes an hourly rate, where you typically will earn more than if you were in a permanent role, but you don't get paid for holiday or sick leave or carer's leave. Whereas a fixed-term contract, you're basically on the payroll of the company that hire you. They pay you as if you're a permanent employee, so you're paid a salary. You do get sick leave, you do get annual leave, you just have an end date to that contract. So you kind of don't get the security of a permanent role, but you also don't get the high earning potential of a contract role. So yeah, that's why only 4% of Salesforce professionals would actually consider a fixed term contract, which is definitely something to take in and be aware of. And if you are hiring in that space, it's going to be very difficult to attract top talent for a fixed term contract role. 33% of Salesforce CTAs would prefer to start their own business when they next move, or if they do move, which is I think that's what we see typically. A lot of the Salesforce consulting businesses are started up by a senior architect, sometimes a CTA, sometimes a salesperson, but 33% of CTAs would prefer to start their own business, which is kind of in line with what I would expect. In terms of contract durations, 82% of people would only consider contracts over 6 months. And of those, 33% would seek at least a 12-month contract. So we see often companies looking to hire for 3 or a couple of months or 3 months here and there. I always say it's very difficult to really get a decent pool of options in terms of candidates for short-term contracts, unless it's perfect for someone's situation right at that time. So they might be in between jobs, they might be going on holiday in a few months' time, and that's when they would typically consider a short contract. But it's quite rare for someone to leave an existing contract or a permanent role for a short contract. So really, contracts should be 6 months plus if possible when looking to hire a contractor. Where do Salesforce professionals most want to work? This year, continued popularity of the end user environment. 32% of Salesforce professionals in ANZ that we surveyed would ideally like to work for a private sector end user organization. 18% said they'd like to work for Salesforce itself, which is in line with the last year, although that figure has been dropping. So in 2020, 39% of respondents said they'd like to work for Salesforce as their preferred option. 2021, it was 28%, and in 2024, we're seeing 18%. So not sure what's changed, but there's definitely been a drop in terms of people aspiring to work for Salesforce as their preferred option. Last year, 3% of people said that they wanted to run their own business. So I've given the figure for CTAs that are looking to start their own business in the future. That was 33%, whereas last year, only 3% of Salesforce professionals across the board, across all skill sets, said they'd like to run their own business next. This year, it's up to 11%. So yeah, we're seeing a bit more entrepreneurial spirit in the market. In terms of choice for Salesforce professionals, 56% of job seekers interviewed for 2 or more jobs the last time they moved role, and a further 9% were interviewed for 4 or more roles. Less than half of candidates only interviewed for 1 role. So when you're a hiring manager and you are looking to hire into your team, you need to be aware that it's likely that candidates will be interviewing for more than 1 opportunity. You need to really present your opportunity in the best light possible, move quickly, have a smooth interview process, really put your best foot forward to make sure that you are the company that they want to join. Demand across the ecosystem. So 67% of Salesforce professionals are contacted 2 or more times per month regarding new opportunities, with 29% being contacted at least 4 times. And 9% of Salesforce developers that we surveyed are contacted over 9 times per month. Last year, that was 27% of Salesforce developers were contacted 9 or more times per month. There has been a big drop off in that kind of high volume opportunities being presented, but still a decent amount of opportunities being presented to people across the ecosystem. Salesforce technical architects in Melbourne were the group most frequently contacted, with 25% of those saying that they were being contacted over 9 times per month. So seems that the technical architect market in Melbourne's been fairly hot this year compared to some of the other markets. Moving to Salesforce teams and projects, 23% of platform managers currently don't have any direct reports. This is fascinating for me because I see the platform manager role meaning different things to different companies. One company might have a platform manager that's never done any Salesforce configuration before, but leads a team of 15, 20 people, or even sometimes more. In other companies, a platform manager may be an individual contributor working on their own and being the only person looking after the Salesforce platform from a day-to-day BAU and support running perspective. So it can really differ in terms of the responsibilities, the seniority, and so on. So it's interesting that 23% of platform managers are really kind of performing that role of the individual contributor. 38% have between 2 and 4 direct reports, and 16% have 10 or more people in their team. Solution architect was named as the skill set most difficult to source. This is where we surveyed different project managers and asked which roles they struggled to fill when they're hiring into their teams or projects. So the solution architect came up as number 1. Last year, it was the technical architect role that was the most difficult. Looking at the MuleSoft market, most MuleSoft professionals who responded to our survey classed themselves as lead level. That was 38% of respondents, and 87% of respondents have worked in the MuleSoft ecosystem for 4 or more years. Most MuleSoft professionals told us that some of their projects now have a Salesforce CRM component. 43% of respondents said that. However, only 29% said that most of their projects do have a Salesforce CRM component, which is quite low. Last year it was 15%, but I always expect that to be higher. I kind of see MuleSoft and Salesforce going hand in hand now, but maybe there's still a lot of opportunity for Salesforce to sell CRM into MuleSoft customers. The marketing cloud market, 93% of respondents said that they, as marketing cloud professionals, they think it's important for them to have a good understanding of the Salesforce core platform, which is it makes sense to me. 85% of marketing cloud professionals that we asked have spent 4 or more years working in Salesforce, or prior to that, the exact target market. And interestingly, 86% of respondents said that they have AMP script development skills. So this is all marketing cloud professionals that responded to the survey combined. So it ranges from marketing cloud technical architects, developers, consultants, campaign managers. So interestingly, across all of the different job titles and skill sets within marketing cloud, 86% have AMP script development experience. Only 50% of respondents in the marketing cloud space said that, based on current market and trends, that they're optimistic about the continued growth of Salesforce opportunities in their area of expertise, which has dropped from 70% last year. That kind of does seem to be in line with what I hear in the market. I know that Braze have taken some customers off of Salesforce in the marketing automation space, and you've got a number of other platforms that are coming through. It's an interesting space to watch for sure. But we're still seeing it. It's still difficult for us to find good marketing cloud talent for our clients. I think, there's definitely been some roles that have been a real struggle to fill over the last 12 to 18 months in that space. So it's interesting that the market sentiment in this area isn't necessarily massively positive. Looking at the Salesforce developer role, 91% of Salesforce developers have built Lightning Web Components in a practical environment outside of Trailhead/DevOrg. This was 89% of people last year. So, you would expect that to keep growing. Within that survey, we've got some, when we're surveying developers, we're surveying not just kind of full stack developers or front end developers, but back end developers, development leads, development managers. So, I would suspect that most full stack and front end developers now would have done some web component work. But obviously that's kind of an expectation now with a lot of the Salesforce development roles that we see in the market. 45% of Salesforce developers are currently upskilling in other programmatic languages. It's good to see. I think it's important that people continue to learn and grow their development skill set, not just their Salesforce development skills. 31% of Salesforce developers consider themselves to be full stack Salesforce developers. Last year, 67% of respondents said they were full stack. So I'm not sure why such a significant drop off there. I'd be interested to hear anyone's thoughts on that space. 6% of Salesforce developers consider themselves to be DevOps specialists. The largest percentage of all of the Salesforce developer respondents we had consider themselves to be Salesforce development lead level. So 32% said that they're at the Salesforce development lead level. 35% of Salesforce developers plan to go on to be a technical architect in the future. 16% said that they plan to be a solution architect, and 14% said that they want to be a Salesforce development lead in the future. The platform manager role now. So 65% of platform managers are responsible for managing other non-Salesforce related platforms, which is, it's a stat that's good to see, I guess, because if you're managing the Salesforce platform and there's other platforms now plugging in and being held responsible under the role of the Salesforce platform manager, that's good for the ecosystem. Salesforce is getting more and more embedded into customers as they're integrating their platforms to other platforms. So I think that's good to see for the future of the market. Most platform managers spend 1 to 10% of their day working in a hands-on configuration or development role. So 27% of people said that they spend between 1 to 10% of their time in a hands-on role. 51% of platform managers rate the level of adoption in their current or last company as high. Last year, it was 62% of people said high. So there's been a bit of a drop off there, which is a shame to see. Looking at the admin role now, nearly all Salesforce admin surveys said that they shouldn't be expected to code, whereas 16% of Salesforce administrators said they can already code, which is up from 13% last year, and 28% are learning to code at the present time. So interesting. Obviously, with the growth of flows in the market, I think that there's this kind of perception there's less of a need for coding and more of more ability to meet outcomes with flow. So it's interesting to see that so many admins are interested in learning to code in the future. 45% of Salesforce admins that we surveyed consider themselves to be at advanced level when building Lightning flows. I've found it very difficult to find admins that are very strong with flow. So it's interesting that people rate themselves at kind of an advanced level because, I feel a lot of companies are struggling to find very technical admins that are very comfortable with the more kind of complex flows. And then also pairing that with communication and client engagement, stakeholder engagement skills is kind of the unicorn that a lot of companies are looking for. So yeah, it's not just about the technical skills, but obviously having advanced flow skills is going to be important for a lot of companies. Out of all of the Salesforce admins that we surveyed, 48% class themselves as senior and only 2% consider themselves to be junior. The career path that Salesforce admins are planning, so 26% said that they'd like to go on to be a functional consultant, another 26% said solution architect, and 21% said platform manager. Looking at the CTAs in the market, 69% of the Salesforce CTAs that we surveyed do come from some sort of coding background, which is, I'm not sure if that's what I would expect. Maybe, probably actually, I think probably I would expect more of the CTAs that I've come across in the market do have some sort of coding background, but it's good to see, obviously, that's not a rule that you have to, because there's still 31% of people out there that haven't come from a coding background and have managed to pass the CTA review board. 44% of CTAs that we surveyed were part of a study group prior to passing the review board. I'd love to know how the 56% passed, because from all of the conversations I have, I hear that's kind of key and is a massive help. So for anyone that's done that all on their own and managed to pass a review board, hats off to you, because that's some achievement, as is passing with the help of a study group, of course. But if you've passed the CTA review board without any kind of assistance from a study group, I'd love to hear from you and hear how you approach that. 88% of CTAs continue to sit further Salesforce certifications post-review board out of choice. So not necessarily just because their company want them to, but because they enjoy doing certifications for any number of reasons. So that's interesting to see. And CTAs were less influenced by the reputation of their current employer this year than they were last year, with their remuneration rising significantly in importance. However, work-life balance would be the main reason that Salesforce CTAs would, or the main attraction to their next role from a Salesforce CTA when they are considering opportunities. 88% of CTAs that we surveyed do currently mentor other aspiring CTAs, which is absolutely awesome to hear. That's fairly consistent with what I hear from CTAs across the market. Out of all of the CTAs that we surveyed, 56% said that the biggest benefit of passing the review board was greater credibility, and only 22% said that it was greater earning potential or greater opportunities. Looking at non-certified technical architects, so non-CTA architects, so solution technical architects, platform architects, and so on. 62% of solution and technical architects that we surveyed come from a coding background. I think a lot of people feel that if you're a developer, you go down the technical architect route, and if you're more functional, you go down the solution architect route. But I have seen that a lot of the solution architects in the market do come from a coding background and could call themselves a solution architect on one project and a technical architect on another. Over half of solution architects that we surveyed do have aspirations to become a CTA. So 61% said that they do. Last year, or 2 years ago, that was 68%. So there has been a bit of a drop off in people aspiring to be a CTA coming from a solution architect background. 13% said that they see it as a longer term goal, something that they expect will take 2 years' time or more. And only 3% said that realistically they think they can become a CTA in the next 12 months. Only 17% of architects believe that there's a good balance of experience and quality candidates in the Salesforce market, which is interesting to see. I think a lot of architects have visibility across the teams that are delivering projects. So interesting to see that only 17% feel there's a good balance of experience and quality. And most architects that we surveyed reported that there's a shortage of quality talent in the ANZ Salesforce pool. So 56% said there's a problem in terms of quality in the market. Looking at AI now, so most Salesforce professionals consider their organization to be somewhat ready to adopt and leverage AI in Salesforce. 36% said this. Most Salesforce professionals that we asked believe that AI will change the way that they work in the next 5 years. So 89% said that there will be a change based on AI, and 47% believe that these changes will be moderate. 41% perceive the impact of AI on their role within Salesforce to be somewhat positive, and only 4% believe that there'll be a negative impact on their role because of AI. Overwhelmingly, the Salesforce professionals that we asked believe that AI will lead to a mix of both job displacement and job creation. So 62% said this. and only 13% believe that will lead to mostly job creation only. Across the board, the CTAs that we surveyed were the most bullish on the emergence of AI. There's 56% believing that there will be a major transformation in the way that Salesforce professionals work over the next 5 years, and 78% believe that there will be significant positive change to their own Salesforce role within Salesforce. 33% of CTAs believe that there'll be only job creation off the back of AI. So that's all of the stats I picked out from the candidate side of the survey. As I mentioned previously, we will be recording another episode where we look at the client side of the survey, so the hiring manager side. I'd love to hear any comments that you have on the survey, whether that's the candidate or client side. Always open to feedback. Any questions that you have, I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't read it yet, make sure you do, because I'm sure there's plenty of interesting stats in there that I didn't cover today. And yeah, keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next installment of this short series where I am reviewing our survey. So another one coming in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.